Hello. Today in the storytelling playlist, I'm going to tell a story that's actually going to span a few years. But it was quite challenging, and maybe it can help someone that might have a similar situation. So this might be a longer story, but I'm going to talk about when I came to Korea, my first year, I got an intestinal parasite. Um, Now, when you first come to Korea, one thing that you notice is that when you go out to eat, often the food is cooked at the table, right? And many times it's like a soup, a juk, or some kind of barbecue or a stew. And when you eat barbecue, you, not all the time, but I would say maybe 80% of the time, you are the one cooking the food. And often it's pork or beef, but more probably pork because it's cheaper. So um, they have this custom in Korea where they put the chopsticks inside soju, which is a strong alcohol, almost kind of like vodka or something, to disinfect the chopsticks after you sort of touch the meat on the barbecue. And, I think that probably helps. But when I lived in America, Americans are very, well, I should say the American food industry is very concerned about being sued. So there are very stringent rules about food handling and all these kind of things. I used to work at restaurants when I was younger, so I know about a lot of these rules. But in Korea, they don't have many of those rules. So um, the point is anyway, I got a parasite, and I don't know if it was from that or if it was from the water. I drank mostly bottled water, but I still brushed my teeth and stuff with tap water. It could have been from some fruit that wasn't cleaned enough. I don't know, but anyway, I never had one in the USA. But literally 3 or 4 months after I came here, I developed this, and at first I didn't know what it was. I had trouble sleeping, and my skin kind of turned red. Um, and when you prepare yourself to go to another country, you hear about culture shock, and I at first thought maybe I was just sick from culture shock. And I mean, I'll be honest, that might have had some effect on this happening to me. Maybe my immune system was down from all the stress, or you know, it might have contributed in some way. So, but anyway, that's what I thought it was at first. And, I went about my day, and it was kind of a struggle because I was tired all the time and my skin was red. So it was kind of embarrassing. People would often ask me, why is your skin so red? And in America, maybe, people might have just thought, oh, he has a sunburn or something. But in Korea, the Korean people are very, they will point things out if they feel concern. Like if you're getting too fat or something, they might say, oh, you're getting a little bit fat. They'll be very honest about it. So I had a lot of Korean people commenting on my skin, and it was making me even more self-conscious, which was making it even harder to sort of go out and just do basic things. So after about um, after a few months, I tried to go to a doctor, um, but I didn't know what it was, so they couldn't really figure out what was going on. So eventually, I started developing these sort of stomach problems and um, bathroom problems as well, and I couldn't really figure it out. And then this is a little bit graphic. If you can skip ahead if you want. But I eventually saw a worm in my stool, and I flipped out because that had never, something like that had never happened to me. I mean, when I was a kid, my whole school got lice, so that's the closest thing I've ever had. And I've been bitten by some insects, some spiders and things, but like this was like another level. And knowing that that was inside of me was really hard on my psychology. So like I immediately went to the doctor and they did a test and they didn't find anything. And I'm like, well, I know I saw this. So they told me, keep in mind that the doctor spoke some English, but not like great. So a lot of this was a struggle to communicate. So he told me the next time I had a bowel movement to, if I saw something, to like keep it. So I said, okay. And I did that. And it wasn't like consistent. It would happen sometimes. But then for a long time, I wouldn't see anything. And then I did, and I took it in there and they tested it. And strangely, they said there was no parasites. And so I was shocked because, I mean, I had it right there and I don't know if they just didn't know what it was or whatever, but he said it could have been undigested food or something. And I was just like, I don't believe that. I mean, I can feel, and at that time it was getting worse. So I could definitely feel a difference in my body and my psychology. And I started to realize, and this is pretty crazy, because at this point I started doing research on it to see if I could somehow heal it myself. And having done that, I realized that when you have a parasite, it can often influence what you eat. It almost takes control of your brain in some ways. It makes you very depressed. It makes you struggle with your sort of self-worth or your self-esteem, because you're like, why do I have this and why can't I get rid of it? So I went to several doctors in Korea and none of them could help me. And it became a big problem for me. So after the first year of Korea, I left because I was like, this is just terrible. And on my way back to the USA, I went to Thailand. And I thought, well, the doctors might be a little bit different there, might be more used to this. So I went to a doctor there. And again, they were kind of telling me I was crazy, or like a hypochondriac or something. And I know there was something in my body that wasn't right, And eventually, I just kind of gave up on the doctors because I was spending all this money and I wasn't getting anywhere. So over the course of like the next year, that's how long I had it for longer than that, but over the course of the next year, I tried almost everything or anything that I came across, from like garlic to wormwood and, all these different herbal tinctures and things to try to fix it. And I'll just say this, if you really want to look into it, you can, but in summation, once you have something like that, it's really hard to get rid of because, they have like an egg cycle of several weeks. So whatever medication you're doing, you have to kind of do for a long time. And then you have to sort of cycle it because you can't do wormwood for too long or it will hurt your liver. So I tried all these different things and nothing was really working. And it was to the point where I couldn't even really have a job that well. I was so tired and I was run down. The 6 months after leaving Korea were really difficult because I couldn't find a job in the USA, and that was creating more stress on me. And, it was a pretty dark time because of this. But And obviously I regretted coming to Korea because I never would have, well, most likely I never would have gotten that if I didn't come here. But anyway, this went on and on and on, and almost to the point where I didn't know if I could continue my life. Like it was that uh, difficult. And eventually, I just tried so many things that I found this tea from Canada, and what I ended up doing is it was really strong tea, medicinal tea, and it had like wormwood and black walnut and like all these different things in it, and it tasted like hell. I mean, it was the worst thing you could possibly imagine as far as taste. So I did that for the amount of time, which was I think like 14 days, and then I alternated by doing this. They can take the component out of garlic, which is called allicin, and they can increase it or make it more potent. So I was taking these allicin pills with aloe vera pills. So I did that, and then I switched back to the tea, and after about, I don't know, 3 or 4 months, I finally beat it. But it wasn't easy, and during this time, there was a lot of what they call die-off, which is really disgusting. So when these things die, until your body can flush them out, they release like toxins into your body. So like weird parts of my body would sort of swell up, like in my like around my teeth, anywhere where your body would normally expel toxins would be sort of overburdened by it. I had a problem with my eye, so it was just terrible. And all in all, I think the whole experience was almost 2 years of it. And after, it really, eventually I went back to Korea for different reasons, but I'm obviously way more careful now. But it's never happened again. But what I realized from that experience is that sometimes things can happen to you and you don't really have a lot of control over them. And I mean, it's like an ordeal, I guess. And one thing it really made me realize is that, like, health is precious, and you should constantly be trying to optimize your health. Because when you're unhealthy, I mean, life is hard enough when you're healthy. And when you're unhealthy, it compounds more and more the worse that you get. Everything becomes more and more difficult. I mean, it was to the point where it was hard to even get up off of a bed or a couch. And, I'm an adult, so I had obligations, financial obligations and obligations to people. And, I don't want to say people didn't believe me, but often I got this sense, it's not like having like a wound where, you're wearing like a cast or that kind of thing. From the outside, it doesn't really appear as bad as what you're experiencing on the inside and in your private life. So, it became this struggle of trying to participate in things and talk to people, but often I kind of felt like they thought I was overreacting or wanting sympathy or something. But in reality, it was embarrassing, and it was difficult to be myself. And I think even this might be, I mean, I might be just making this up in my head, but I also felt like when I had it that it was influencing my thoughts, and so I wasn't in complete control of my body, if that makes sense. Like it would, the cravings for sugar or for, food that it wanted would override my own will in some ways. And, it took a lot of strength of mind to be able to keep plugging away at it for 2 years. So I think, if anything, what I learned from it is that a person can be a lot stronger than they think they can. And when something like this happens, I guess you just have to dig deep into who you are and try to fight it, and get past it. Anyway, that was a long time ago now, I guess. Probably about, I think I got rid of it in 2013. So I had it almost 4 years, I guess, now that I'm thinking about it. Anyway, I thought it was less than that, but thinking about the dates, I know in 2013 I came back to Korea for another contract, and that's the year that I got rid of it. So anyway, yeah, it wasn't fun. So I guess my advice is, if you come to a country with not as high sanitation standards as you might have in your country, just beware. And at the first sign, if you think something like that is happening, you should try to get it resolved, because the longer it gets in you and takes hold, the harder it is to get rid of it. So maybe that was a little bit disgusting for a story. I'm not sure. Many of these other stories I'm going to tell are going to be funny or humorous. This is just one of the ones that sort of popped into my head first. So anyway, if you like these stories, you can like and subscribe, or hit the bell if you want notifications, and I'll have another one soon. Take care.